Luanne, trust me, this is for the best. We agreed that I would do the thinking for both of us.
I never agreed to be a licensed pork product!
Luanne, I thought you loved me.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to noirs to a very disturbing psychological thriller that really just should have been a non-canon Halloween special. I'm Derek B. Gale, and who's with me today?
You know, I really wanted to say something funny, but just after this episode, it's all been drained out of me. It's just Tommy. It's just me. It's Tommy.
Aw, well, hey Tommy, I have a question for you. What would be the most likely way for a psychopath to win you over? Private football bloopers, a ride in a hot air balloon, or a genetically engineered perfect pig?
You know, all three of those things just sound so absolutely delightful. I think I would have to opt for the football bloopers, strangely enough.
Weird, yeah. Okay, I mean, I can't argue with that, sure. I wouldn't turn down a hot air balloon ride, but bloopers are fun too, I guess.
The pig is just completely off the table. There's no way.
Yeah. No, that's the worst one. That's one of many red flags. We are talking about a truly bizarre and infamous episode, setting the energy right up front here for how this one's going to go. Episode of King of the Hill, Season 7, Episode 9, entitled Pigmalion. For those unfamiliar with King of the Hill, this episode is not representative of the show at all. It was an animated sitcom that aired on Fox from 1997 to 2010 for 13 seasons, with a revival currently in the works. It was created by Mike Judge, who's the creator of Beavis and Butthead and Idiocracy, and as well as being the voice of Hank Hill on this very show, along with Greg Daniels, who is a writer on The Simpsons, creator of The Office, and co-creator of Parks and Rec. King of the Hill follows the lives of the Hill family and all the characters around them in their home of Arlen, Texas. It's notable for being the first network animated sitcom to be a genuine hit after The Simpsons. Also notable for its realistic approach, with a lot of occasional story arcs, long-term developments, characters aging, and most of its comedy kind of coming from mundane real-life situations, or just simply putting a closed-minded Hank up against someone with different or more worldly values than he has. So as such, it's never really gotten as wacky or weird as shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy, and it's pretty known for that, except for a few exceptions where it does get really weird.
Except for this episode.
It was a huge hit at the time. It was named by Time as one of the top 100 greatest television shows of all time in 2007, won 2 Emmys and a slew of other Emmy nominations, and it's continued to maintain, if not continue to grow, a really long following, especially thanks to its reruns on Adult Swim very long after it ended. But with all that said, Tommy, what is your personal history with King of the Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one of the many people who kind of got into King of the Hill after the initial airing. I definitely remember watching it when I was younger and it just not really landing for me, which seems to be a common consensus, I think, for a lot of people I wouldn't even say people in our generation, but a lot of people who started watching it when it was first on and you know, just had that same experience where it was like, oh, this is a show about, you know, this kind of rural, working class, family, and not that there's anything wrong with that or that I wouldn't have liked that when I was younger, but it just didn't hit. And I think that it wasn't until it started showing back up on reruns and stuff like that's when it really, you know, kind of sunk in. And I was like, actually, this is a really smart, kind of subversive and funny show. And I started just rewatching it again, in my later years. And I think that I would even, I don't know if I would define it as I mean, it feels like it has a cult following now, but maybe it's more popular than even being a cult thing.
Well, yeah, it's weird because it was massively popular when it was airing. Like, I think it's kind of forgotten just how popular this was. Like, it was... It had great ratings. It, like I said, it was like the first genuine hit after The Simpsons, bigger hit than Family Guy was. It ran for 13 seasons because it always had very consistent viewership, even in spite of like being preempted by sports, like more so than something like Futurama or something even, which is a good show with a following. But like Futurama was never a breakthrough in the way that King of the Hill was, especially like during the first few seasons. Like you'd get like Fox Kids was cross-promoting with King of the Hill because it was just so wildly popular, you know?
Sorry, I'm thinking of some of
ridiculous.
those, the commercials. Like, wasn't there like a commercial with...
Silver Surfer?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so ridiculous.
I might cut one of those into this podcast, honestly. They're so ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It's so bizarre.
Fox Kids invades Hank Hill's hometown with a brand spanking new lineup of the craziest critters.
New neighbors? Oh, this is more exciting than the Megalomart semi-annual clearance sale.
Be here when Fox Kids heads for the hills next Saturday morning.
Take the ride.
Mr. Surfer, have you ever considered propane as an alternative energy source for that board of yours? With a little retooling, I could get it to work. Tell you what I'm going to do. Being that you're my neighbor and I like you, I'm going to give you the new neighbor discount and a free t-shirt. So what do you say?
Take a ride on the Cosmic Tide on an all-new Silver Surfer next as Fox Kids heads for the hills continues.
Just think, with repeat business like that, I could eventually be supplying propane galaxy-wide.
It was huge, but I think that the memory of it didn't really persist in the way that The Simpsons did. Like kids weren't quoting King of the Hill like they quoted The Simpsons, but people were watching King of the Hill nevertheless. And then kids who watched it and weren't quoting it then came back to it later, like you, and were like, no, this was actually brilliant all along. And I just never really realized it.
Well, and I think it also had this quality, and I could be just completely incorrect about this, but I've heard people talk about how it kind of was able to get both, and I don't know if I'm going to explain this correctly, but like it was able to get people who like really dug like how subversive it was. I said that's the second time I've said that word, but you know what I mean? But then there was also people who just liked it for like the face value of like what the characters were presenting. And so I think it was able to like really capture, you know, both sides of things.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on. It's weird, like in this day and age for this to not feel like it's a criticism. But I think that like King of the Hill was like kind of a true, like moderate centrist show.
Yeah.
But in the most positive way that it could be. Like nowadays, it's sort of weird just because of how widely divided like both political sides are. Like the right and left are so, I mean, it's not to say that there weren't issues in the late 90s to the 2000s, but I think the way that things are perceived now and the sort of types of political divisions there are now, it's harder to... I think you couldn't do it like you really couldn't do that again now, which is why I kind of worry about the revival. But I think it was like sort of the perfect time to be able to sort of strike that middle ground where it could appeal to people who are very liberal and people who are very conservative. And the conservative people would really relate to Hank Hill, and the liberal people would really feel like there was solid satire in Hank Hill as a character.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. And I think also too, it was aided by the fact that we didn't have so much proliferation of social media, right? Where you didn't have like all of, you know, so many takes about from both sides of things saying like no, Hank Hill is like this type of character, no, you have to like realize like this is, and I think that probably helped it because you could just, no matter what side of, you know, the fence you landed on, you could just kind of watch it and enjoy it.
I agree. I did watch it while it was on, and it's funny because I always liked it, but I didn't really know why. I think I liked the characters, but like I said, this wasn't one that I would quote in the way that I would quote The Simpsons. It was more just like, I think I just saw something in the characters and sort of felt comforted by the show, because it is kind of a comforting show.
It is.
It just wasn't one that I would like rewatch over and over again until later in life when I really got a lot more of the humor.
This sounds like such a nothing thing to say, but it really, is a show that has something to offer for everyone, I feel like, because I think that, you know, if you're kind of in that like adolescent to like teen age, like you could probably get a lot out of, you know, Bobby and, you know, Connie and like some of the younger characters when those episodes would happen, even like Luanne and stuff like that, to, you know, the parents, like our parents' age at the time, you know, would be able to get stuff out of, you know, the Hank Hill and the Peggy and even you know the kind of side characters as well. Everybody has a friend or two like that kind of fits the mold of each of the characters within the show. And I think that like I think it just had something that, you know, even if it wasn't your favorite show, it had something that would like catch you as you like sat down to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a really well fleshed out world, and especially in the early seasons, because they would often actually have like pretty great continuity and like character arcs and story arcs that would sort of continue and like cliffhanger season finales and stuff. Like it really immediately set itself apart from stuff like The Simpsons, which was obviously good.
Yeah.
But it was kind of its own thing. And King of the Hill was like, no, we are kind of like treating this like it is a real world that these characters exist in. It's still a cartoon, and we're still doing things that you couldn't do on a live action sitcom with just the amount of characters that we have and the locations that we're able to go to and sort of the more like kind of extensive like shots that you wouldn't be able to get in a regular sitcom. But we're still treating them like they're real people in a way that even at The Simpsons most grounded wasn't, just because it was always getting back to the status quo by the end, you know?
Yeah. And I think the real world piece is really helpful for King of the Hill as well, because I mean, it takes place in Texas, you know, which is like has its own kind of identity in a lot of different ways. You get mentions of like the Dallas Cowboys and, you know, like Tom Landry and like stuff like that, where it's just like it feels very much like, oh, these are all places that could actually exist. Like, and sometimes they are places that do exist. So like, I think
oh wait, the Dallas Cowboys are real? Are you kidding me?
But yeah, I mean, I think that is a thing that really helps the show out a lot. Is that kind of grounded nature that it really kind of leans into, but then it does allow it to have kind of the wackiness in. Although sometimes I will say that it's funny, as I've done rewatches of it, once you get into like the later seasons, like sometimes the later seasons are just like a little bit far out there with some of the stuff that kind of goes down, but still good, still quality. Yeah,
that's the other thing I was going to say too, is that like I think the King of the Hill is unique in that despite its long run, even though there are definitely like eras that you can sort of pick out and see how the show changed, it's way more consistent across its 13 seasons than any other animated sitcom like it. Like even, I mean, the sitcom, Simpsons obviously is in its own tier, but if you compare like season 2 of The Simpsons with season 13 of The Simpsons, it's a completely different show. And you do the same with King of the Hill, and it's like, oh, I've seen how this show has grown and changed, and maybe it's aged a bit, but like, it's still funny and still feels like the same show, just an older version of it, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, like some of the characters even benefit from the Flandersization. I don't know.
Flanderization.
Some of the characters really benefit from that. I think Hank, once they into the kind of mid seasons, really started leaning into the kind of puritanical, might not be the right word, but actually I think it might be, nature. Sure. And then also leaning into him just being like, for lack of a better term, horny for propane, like all the time. And like, you know what I mean though? Like, I think that really like, because when you go back to, and I know we're talking like way deep about like the overall show, but when you go back and watch like some of the first episodes and they talk, like Hank is just like a really angry dude and like is really kind of off-putting some of the times. Like, and once they start kind of like pulling that back, I think that he becomes a lot more real and a lot more fleshed out. And I think he is one of the few characters that you can like look at and be like, no, he really benefited from them just like being like, you know what, we're just going to lean into this as much as we can.
Yeah, make him a little sillier, but also make him more likable because he is a character that needs to be relatable. That ends up becoming kind of the magic of the show, where you can relate to him because he's like you, or you can relate to him because you've been in similar situations, or you can just like feel like he's a fleshed out character that feels like good satire, like, and all of those work. And that only happens if you sort of lighten him up a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. I think all of that context is important though, because this episode, I think one of the reasons why it stands out is because if this episode was in Family Guy, it would be like nothing. It's like that kind of stuff happens all the time. But because King of the Hill is so kind of grounded, even at its wackiest, when you do something truly weird in King of the Hill, it very rarely happens. And when it does, it really stands out. And you get an episode like this, which is just honestly kind of hard to parse, even though compared to other animated sitcoms, maybe it's not that weird, but in the context of this show, it is.
Yeah.
So this episode, Pigmalion, the best way that I could try to wrap my head around it is that it's basically like, it's a creepy psychological thriller homage, I think, is what they were trying to go for. No one has been on the record of what their intention was with this episode. I tried to dig really deeply, tried to see any mention of this episode in interviews. And despite how like infamous it is online within like the King of the Hill conversations, none of the writers seem to ever talk about it. But I don't know if it's because no one wants to, or if it's because no one's asked them, because it never comes up in any interviews. And there hasn't really been like extensive oral histories. Like, I don't think there's been like the nerdery about King of the Hill in the way that people are about The Simpsons online, you know? And people aren't digging into it. Like, people like King of the Hill, but Mike Judge isn't the type that's going to tell everyone about his stuff. He seems to keep to himself for the most part. Greg Daniels is busy as fucking doing like The Office and stuff. So he gets questions about The Office all the time. But like, people aren't really digging into all the nuances of King of the Hill, I think, outside of the broad stuff. So like, I tried really hard to even like going back on like Internet Archive to like get scans of TV Guide and stuff like that to see if anyone mentioned this episode. And if it's out there, there's no record of it from 2003 of anyone talking about this episode. So I truly have no fucking idea where this came from. So everything I say about it is just fully my assumptions and connecting some dots.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is like on the King of the Hill wiki, I noticed like they don't even have like there's a section about, and you probably saw it, like about, you know, just different assumptions and things like that about this episode. None of it is sourced because like it's just like, I guess there's like you said, there's nothing out there about it, which is like adds kind of to just the unsettling nature of this episode. Like it all, I know it's not like they're not talking about it because it's, you know, it's creepy or something like that, but it does make it just feel like all like weirder that it's just like, do they know that this episode exists? Like
it makes it feel like a creepypasta.
Yeah.
Or creepypasta, whatever it is. Like, yeah.
It really does. Like that's, yeah, it's like, what if they just did not, like what if someone asked them about it and they just completely denied that it existed? Like, could you imagine?
We never had Michael Keaton on our show. What are you talking? He was on an episode of The Simpsons. Is that what you're thinking of?
I kind of want them to do that now. That would be amazing.
That would be hilarious. I want that to happen. I'm curious, like with the revival coming up, obviously there's going to be more and more press and stuff. I would be curious if there ends up being a more in-depth oral history and maybe someone asks about this episode. I would be curious, but as of right now, there's nothing.
You're watching Non-Stop Fox, where the new comedy King of the Hill premieres tonight. Presenting a new comedy
I'm a substitute Spanish teacher.
about intellectuals
Los estudiantes son mis amigos.
and their gifted offspring.
That boy ain't right.
About future Hall of Famers
Watch the ball!
What?
and expert auto care.
Oh, my hand!
Introducing King of the Hill.
Media executive man don't talk about every time y'all come on like you did, put on that dang old Melrose Place. Boomhauer ain't right.
Premiering next on Fox.
Hello, I'm Hank Hill. The following are some things you will never see on my new show, King of the Hill. Tofu dogs, tanning salons, vegetarian chili, the Macarena, male manicures, granola, designer underwear.
Presenting King of the Hill. Premiering next on Fox.
So the best that I think, it feels like they were specifically going for like a genre homage to psychological thrillers, which is not something that King of the Hill really ever does. So it's still sort of weird that they did it, but like, I feel like they're not doing a direct reference to anything, but I'm thinking like stuff like Gaslight or Cape Fear or like Fatal Attraction or like Single White Female, like even like schlockier stuff, like the stuff where it's like, oh no, the idea of being extremely close to a psychopath and maybe no one else realizes they're a psychopath because they're secretly a psychopath and you get intimate with them and everything. Like, that's the kind of thing that can get really problematic, but it is kind of its own subgenre of psychological thriller, right? Like getting too close with the crazy madman who no one realizes is crazy. And that is unfortunately what this episode plays on very much. So like I said, they don't really do genre homages like that. So it's sort of weird for this one to exist like this. And it is technically a Halloween episode. It takes place on Halloween. This isn't the only Halloween episode they did. They did one in season 2, but that one was just like a regular episode of King of the Hill that took place on Halloween. It wasn't any sort of Treehouse of Horror thing or non-canon thing. So again, you have like the precedent of a regular Halloween episode that takes place in their universe. And you have this episode that like almost feels like it's meant to be like a dream or something like that.
Well, and also too, because I mean, you talked about this, how like there is, and I know that there are like, there's not like direct continuity from like every episode to the next, but there is a lot of like carryover crossover continuity from episode to episode. So the fact that like they have this episode that just wild stuff just happens and it's like never mentioned. I don't think it's mentioned again, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think that's the thing with the part of King of the Hill's realistic approach is that I feel like there would be consequences to things.
Yeah.
So there would be dark stuff would happen on the show. There's like a whole like 2-parter where like a lady accidentally shoots herself in the head and it's a whole murder mystery. It's like there would be dark shit on this show, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it would deal with the consequences of it. Characters would treat it realistically. And the weird aspect of this one is how horrific it is. And the character's just like, well, we learned something today.
Right. Well, and when you think about it too, I mean, Luanne especially has had like a lot of traumatic shit happen to her. And they touch on that a lot. Like, I mean, they bring up like Buckley, who was her boyfriend who died in the explosion of the Walmart that in the universe, where she like also lost all of her hair. That gets mentioned like later on in other seasons and stuff like that, you know? And then this thing that is like, I wouldn't say more, like you can't really like measure trauma, but like seeing someone impaled to death is really traumatic. Like
on top of everything else that happens leading up to that too.
Sure, 100%. Yeah, like everything about it is just like, you would think that like there would be some mention that this happened again, but
right. I mean, maybe it's for the best that it's never mentioned again. Yeah. That's the thing too, is that I think this is their attempt at a Treehouse of Horror kind of thing. It is. I think if you read it as non-canon, it makes the episode better. It's just weird because King of the Hill never does that, and it's not clear that that's what they're doing. I do have some interesting stuff because we were talking kind of about how the show progresses and gets wackier, and I think that this is part of that conversation too. And I think it's actually kind of complicated and also speaks to how fucked up it is. So during season 5, this episode airs in season 7, so this is going to be a little bit of a walk, but it will make sense in a second. During season 5, Judge and Daniels became less involved with the show. So during this season, and also during the season, a lot of the writers just kind of leave, get other jobs. I don't think it's any bad thing that's happening. It's just kind of a sea change, just from turnover, just from people going to other shows and stuff, just because the show's been on for almost 5 years, right? So there is like Richard Appel is the showrunner for season 5. And I think there's even different showrunners for season 6. And it's during those seasons that it's cited that that's when the show sort of starts to get a little bit wackier. Not to say that there aren't absolute bangers and classics. I love those seasons to death. But from the writer's perspectives, and I think particularly Mike Judge's perspective, those were the seasons that he felt like there was a shift from the first 4 seasons in terms of the types of stories they were telling. And so season 7 comes around and Mike Judge is reportedly open about this. He's like, I don't like the wackier tone. They appoint new showrunners. Greg Daniels comes back on board in a more consistent role. And going forward, they strive for what Judge specifically called small personal stories like we did in the 2nd season. So what does that have to do with this weird story that aired in season 7 in the season that's supposed to be not weird? Well, apparently this was originally produced during season 5. So presumably this is one of those weirder stories that Mike Judge was citing as not liking. Obviously this wasn't called out because no one's talked about it, but I have to assume this is part of the thing he was complaining about. So what's interesting is the reason it aired in season 7 is that it was the 23rd episode produced for season 5. So my assumption is that they're probably going to hold it over to be the season 6 Halloween special. Because it would air right at the top of that season. So it kind of makes sense. It doesn't in fact air until the January of the following year in season 7, which again, nothing on the record says this, but you have to imagine that was Fox's choice. That like, this episode's fucked up. Can we just keep pushing this back? Keep pushing it back. So season 5 episode airs in January of season 7, which I feel like is still a mistake, because if you have this fucked up episode that you're afraid to air, at least air it on Halloween when people are more open to that, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe there was like another Halloween episode that they liked better that came. No?
There isn't. And in fact, they air this on the same night as another new episode. They air it on the same night as the Megalodale episode. So I think that maybe that was part of their way to burn it off, is that they could have the Megalodale episode in a more prime time slot. I looked up the listing for that day or that night. And so it's like Futurama at 7. This fucked up episode airs at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. Imagine being like a child who doesn't have a bedtime yet, seeing this on television because it's airing at 7:30. Then The Simpsons airs at 8, and then the Megalodale episode airs at 8:30. I'm guessing that like they're hoping to sort of further bury the episode they were putting off by airing it on the same night as another one, but not back to back with it.
That's just everything about that is just, the decisions are just so baffling to me. Like, first of all, like how often would they have, I mean, never would they have aired 2 like brand new episodes back to back, right? Like,
well, I mean, sure, that would happen sometimes, you know, if they had some, I don't know, if there was something weird going on or they wanted to promote a special event or something like that. It's an easy thing to advertise. I couldn't find any TV ads, so I don't know how they advertised this episode, or if they advertised a 1 hour thing, or if they advertised it at all.
Okay.
Who knows?
The other thing I was going to say, because the Megalodale episode is also a kind of weirdly bizarre one, and almost kind of a horror trope episode as well. And part of me wonders, like, they must have, like, did they do something to like pair them together and say like, get your spook on, or get scared with King of the Hill? Like,
that would be a smart thing to do. Like I said, I wish I could find ads from that night. I couldn't find any. If they're out there, if anybody has them on like your VHS tapes, please digitize them and send them my way, because I want to know how these episodes were advertised. Because it wasn't like it was a whole night of creepy stuff either. Like the other episodes that aired of other shows were regular episodes. I think it's really odd, and I don't really know. I just don't really know what the thought process was.
Because like, again, just thinking about, I mean, I'm just thinking about like, if it was Halloween and you had this episode and then Megalodale, like it would almost feel like two, like, you know, very specific kind of like, well, not very specific, but like broad horror trope or broad thriller trope kind of thing. Because you have in Megalodale, I know it's not the episode we're talking about, but that's the one where like there's like the teens and like they wear like the
Chuck Mangione
masks. Like,
it's almost like a haunted house episode inside of the Megalomart.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also like there's those there's a specific like horror franchise of like, or I don't know if it's a specific one, but they like the Strangers, I think is what I'm thinking of, where they wear face masks and things like that, like masks of other people's faces. So like that would have been perfect for Halloween. Like both of these episodes paired up, like give me that. That would have been great.
Yeah. The only evidence that I could point to that says that they didn't advertise it like that is that I did find the archives for the alt.tv.king of the hill forums from when this aired, and it wasn't super active at the time, but like everyone on there was sort of like, those were weird episodes. King of the Hill is getting weirder. I didn't really like that. Like, so it didn't seem like people were primed for it to be a creepy pairing. It just seemed like they were legitimately surprised that there's a dude in a pig costume and Chuck Mangione hiding in the Megalomart. Like, which valid. Both of those things are weird. So.
Oh goodness. Wow. Yeah. It's funny because when I was watching this, I did see like the next one was Megalodale. I was like, that's another just kind of out there episode. I was like, it's funny that those were like right there. So knowing that they aired those back to back, like, my God, like what were they thinking?
I don't know.
Back to back, not on like Halloween or like Friday the 13th or something.
It's so bizarre. The other really weirdly bizarre thing about this episode is infamous online. If you bring it up, people are going to be like, that's the really creepy, dark episode of King of the Hill, right? And I even found like, you just name search Pigmalion on Twitter, it's a lot of people adding the writer of this episode, asking them what the fuck was up with this episode. And he never responds.
Not surprising.
Not surprising. The other thing they ask him about, and this is annoying, is it creepypasta or creepypasta? I think it's creepypasta because it's copy paste, right?
I've always said pasta, but I also don't. I don't know.
Whatever. It's this weird popular internet thing that there's a rumor that in the first airing of this episode, at the very end, you see Tripp's corpse bloody and hanging on the hook as Peggy and Luanne are like talking at the end. Zero evidence for that. It's just a rumor. It seems like it just spawned from someone rando on the internet saying that they thought they remembered it, but it's like all over the fucking place when you try to search for this episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly kind of annoying because it sort of like overtakes any other actual information about it. It's just people asking about the clip that I'm sure doesn't exist. They wouldn't just show up. Like, this episode's weird, but I feel like showing a bloody corpse of a guy on a hook that then vanishes from future airing seems like a step too far. I
could potentially, and it's funny, when I saw that too, I was like, is that a memory that I have, or am I just now thinking about that? Like, because I don't know if I don't think I watched this episode when it aired. I don't think I did. Yeah, I may have, but like, I could see them doing a thing where you see like just not like bloody, but you just see like from like a specific point of view, like not, again, no blood coming down, but you just see like him kind of go by really quickly. But I also think like, yeah, if that exists, someone would have recorded it on VHS. Yeah. And then would have like put it on the internet at this point. Like
right.
Here's my thing. If you know that it exists, put up or shut up, put your like show us the receipts, put it online. Like, we want to see it. Like,
yeah, but it's big C. It's not a big illegal thing. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. I'm sure it doesn't.
I don't think so either. I think it definitely is one of those things that like, I think it's one of those things that just like kind of seeped into people's consciousness. Like, once people started talking about it, they're like, oh my God, I saw that too. I will say, after I saw that rumor, I did see like they do have the hook that goes by in the front. And I was like, that would have made sense. Like, if it was right there. But I also think that would have been, if it was that prominent, it would have been really hard. Cause the hook is like in front of the camera and in front of Peggy and Luanne, the one that I was thinking of. It would have been very hard, I think, to like remove that and like animate everything back. I don't know how animation works.
I think the argument is that the cut that it goes on for a second longer and they faded it out earlier before it popped up is what people say, which if that was true, I could see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just like I don't buy it. It feels like too much. But then again, if you just like describe this episode to me and I'd seen every other episode of King of the Hill but this, I would tell you that you're lying and there's no way King of the Hill would do this to you. So I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing I think that could be possible is that in an early draft of the script or something like that, or even in an early version of the episode before it aired, that was there. And then the network told them like, no, you got to take that out. Yeah. I could see that. That sounds plausible. Yeah. But the fact that people actually saw that, I'm with you. I don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's all I got for this one. I wish I had more answers, but I don't. So
don't we all?
Why don't we just start talking about the episode? This series is available for streaming on Hulu if you'd like to witness this, if you'd like to experience this for yourself, or you could watch every other episode of this show that's better. Not better. This episode is still interesting and often very funny. It's just different. The episode we're talking about, Pigmalion, the synopsis per IMDb is Luanne is wooed by millionaire Tripp Larson, who has bizarre plans for her.
Yep. The
original air date was January 12th, 2003. It It was written by Jordan Collier, who is a producer on King of the Hill from season 1 up through season 9. Wrote a whole bunch of episodes, a whole bunch of pretty good episodes too. He wrote the Husky Bobby episode where Bobby becomes a plus size model. He wrote the episode where Lenore returns, like the one appearance that she made.
Nice.
He also wrote a number of episodes of The Simpsons during seasons 5 through 7. He was a producer and writer on Monk, The Good Family, Bones, and also the showrunner for the first season of CW's In the Dark. This episode was directed by Dominic Polsino. He directed on King of the Hill from seasons 3 to 10, along with a bunch of Simpsons episodes from seasons 7 to 10, as well as Family Guy, Mission Hill, Harmon Quest, Rick and Morty, and most recently, The Freak Brothers. Nothing weird in terms of the writer credits. Just, I don't know. Still no answers. So what's interesting, I think, about this episode too, and maybe a mistake, is that like the first like act or so of it is pretty normal. I don't think you expect this episode to be that weird, and I think often very funny. Like it's packed with jokes in the beginning here, I think.
Oh my God, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I was taking down like the one-liners that were like super funny, and I just like stopped because I was literally
there's so many.
I was pausing the episode like every and I was like, I'm literally just rewriting the script at this point. Like
yeah. It's really I mean, that's what kind of makes it bizarre. I think maybe if this episode had just been the thriller thing right from the get-go and made it clear at the top that this was going to be a weird episode, it might have serviced it a little better, because as it stands, the first half is honestly really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half, the turn is like very unfunny for them pretty much.
Yeah.
But it opens at Rattlesnakes, which is a restaurant that the Hills are having dinner at.
Something smells good. It's the menu. Ha! Even the menu smells good at Rattlesnakes.
Such a just like I could be wrong, but like I feel like Bobby has like 3 lines in this episode, and that being
not much.
That being one of them, like such a perfect Bobby line. Like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Also, the other line from the dinner that was just like just a banger of a line was Hank. He gets cut off because Peggy overhears Luanne getting berated. Hank says,
"Hey, Peggy, if I get the chicken fried chicken and you get the chicken fried steak, we can..."
Just a moment.
I know exactly like what he's going to finish that sentence with. And it's like, it's just so perfect, like his character. It was such a, like, I forgot that line was in this episode, and I was like almost cackling. Like, it was so good.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. And Luanne, who's their niece, is working there as a waitress, and Peggy kind of overhears Luanne's boss yelling at her and like chastising her for like putting a fork in like the spoon bin or whatever. I also love like,
I do so know enough not to put a salad-sized fork in the spoon bin.
Well, that fork didn't just walk along and hop in there by herself, did she now?
No, she couldn't have.
No, she couldn't have.
Very. Also, too, I love how subtle it is, because they set it up. It's a very like subtle, like kind of bait and switch, where you think she's getting berated for putting a salad-sized fork in a like dinner-sized fork spot. Like that's how, because she literally says, like how did this salad-sized fork end up in the spoon bin? And it's just like it's like very, very quick and very smart, and like indicative of like some of the smart kind of jokes that they make on King of the Hill. Because like you expect you expect that kind of like clear, like, oh, this is like a really like minor thing, but then it's like, oh no, it's just in the complete wrong place. Like.
Yeah, King of the Hill is like deceptively good at hiding jokes that you really only get on rewatch, because there's like layers and layers of jokes that they don't like call out or like hone in on at all. Most like you have your characters having one-liners, but then there's often like jokes underneath those one-liners, or like jokes underneath of jokes in the context of a regular conversation. Yep. It's like really incredible sometimes.
Yeah, they master like the dialogue pattern like of the show really, really quickly, I would say. And like just that's something that like completely carries through the whole show.
Right. Yeah, so you know, Peggy kind of confronts Luanne's boss for mistreating her over what's a pretty minor thing, and it gets so heated that like Peggy's like, well, you know what? She quits. And like her boss is like, I wasn't gonna fire her. This wasn't that big of a deal.
You will not use threats with her.
And you will not tell me how to talk to my supervisees.
And you have just lost yourself a waitress. She quits.
Well, now, wait a minute. I wasn't gonna fire her.
Mm-hmm. It's too late for your apologies now, isn't it? Luanne, pick up your clothes and 3 onion loaves. We are going home.
But it's too late. So Luanne has been forcibly quit from her job.
And then what's really funny is like in the very next scene when Peggy and her are like sitting together in Peggy's like makeshift office, Luanne says,
Now, I probably wouldn't have lost my rattlesnakes job if you hadn't said anything.
Exactly, but I won't be around forever to do everything for you. You have to learn to help yourself.
How did it help me to lose my job?
It will leave you open for new opportunities, such as the one that I am about to present to you.
I can't help but to think I would still have my job, like, if you hadn't have said anything. But not in, like, a really, like, daggery way, but, like, in a very kind of, like, just very thoughtful Luanne way of, like, I can't help but to think I might still have my job if you hadn't have said anything. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But then Peggy's like, well, exactly. I won't be around forever to do everything for you. I do think, like, the best part of this episode is that I think the dynamic between Peggy and Luanne, obviously that's like the thematic through line and the character through line of the whole thing. But I do think that they nail it. It's a very King of the Hill thing. But I think in particular, like, I think that despite the extreme circumstances, this episode like nails Luanne's character throughout it.
Yeah.
Like just that balance that is really like, I don't envy them for writing her because it's such a careful balance with her of she is legitimately gullible and naive and like not like she's not book smart, but she's not stupid either at the same time is the thing. It's just like being, and I think that balance of like being naive, but also not being stupid, like, and it might take her a little while to get stuff, but when she does, she can be very insightful and very perceptive. It just, you know, she just isn't always as like instantaneous with getting those things, but like, throughout this whole episode, she does some pretty clever, ingenious things and like connects the dots, even if it takes her a little while. And like once she figures shit out, like she knows what to do, you know?
Yeah, I think you're spot on because one of the things that like just rewatching this is a Luanne centric episode, right? Like after kind of the first act, like it just basically becomes Luanne. And I think that can be a tough spot. Like sometimes, and I mean like in general with shows when you don't have like your leading characters kind of like pulling things along, even with a character like Luanne, it is this like balance that they have to really hit. And I think they do a good job of it. Like, I think that in spite of just the weirdness and just some of the maybe not best portrayals of things that happen in this episode, like I think they do a good job of, like you said, just having Luanne, you know, be a great version of Luanne in this episode.
Mm-hmm. It almost makes the episode even more uncomfortable because you really care about her because she's not behaving cartoonishly. She's behaving very normally. So you feel worse when these wild things happen to her.
Yep.
So the reason that Luanne is with Peggy in her office is because
the Learning Annex is offering a class on the joy of entrepreneuring. I signed you up.
It would be really nice if sometimes you could ask me when you make decisions about my life.
You're right. Would you like to go at 7 or at 9?
7.
I'm sorry, that won't work for me.
Such a quintessential Peggy moment too, of like, just like that doesn't work for me. It's just like the illusion of choice with Peggy Hill, like, and also too, funny enough, like if you think about it, I wonder, had she gone at the time that Luanne wanted to go, would none of this have happened? Like,
oh, that's a great call, because that actually, I think the writers are smart enough to like, to be doing that, because that pops up throughout this episode of Peggy just kind of making things worse, like for Luanne.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote that line down too. I just loved here's your choice. A 2-hour window. Like, which one is your preference?
Yeah, look at how good I'm being at giving you a choice in your life. So, yeah, the lecturer that they go to, both Peggy and Luanne go, not just Luanne. And the lecturer here is Trip Larson of Larson Pork Products, who's an entrepreneur, an innovator, and an inventor in the pork community. Trip Larson is voiced by Michael Keaton. Who doesn't know who Michael Keaton is? Batman, he's the Vulture in Spider-Man, he's Birdman, Beetlejuice. The dude's a legend. This was an interesting point in his career because I think he hadn't really had... Like, I feel like he did like the Jack Frost movie that wasn't very well received. And then I don't think he really has another big movie for a while. So I think this is sort of during his period where he is just kind of doing guest spots on stuff and minor roles and everything. So it's kind of interesting that they got him for this. But I guess King of the Hill would often kind of get unexpected celebrities, and they would always be sort of playing characters rather than playing themselves. Not unlike how The Simpsons and Family Guy would do it. What do you think of Michael Keaton in this role?
I mean, he creeped me out. I think he does like a phenomenal job at it. I don't think I knew that it was Michael Keaton like until late, like much later in life, and then it's just kind of like now it's just like wow, like it's bizarre that they have someone like Michael Keaton in just such a messed up role. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I kind of get it though, because he often plays fucked up, not like this, but he often plays characters that are on the edge of sanity. Like his version of Batman is kind of a dude that's on the edge of a mental breakdown. Beetlejuice is a fucked up
That's
dude.
true.
You know, like I do think that he is sort of playing in his wheelhouse. I think he's really good in this episode, but he's just playing such an unsettling character that being really good is sort of like, I feel gross feeling like he's really good, but he is really good, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you're right. I think I'm thinking of just like the star like nature of Michael Keaton. And like, I'm thinking of like, well, you wouldn't be able to get like Tom Cruise or someone to do a role like this, but
sure.
But like the roles that he has done, like, yeah, it does kind of check out. And again, like I don't think that the character like plays as well if this was just like a standard voice actor. Well, maybe not. I shouldn't say that. But like I think that Michael Keaton like added a layer to it that like made it that much creepier.
He definitely has some choices in this episode that I think are odd choices that work in favor of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so many people that the fact that they got him to like make pig noises and stuff, pretty astounding, honestly.
Yeah.
But he's a good actor, so, you know. But yeah, so he's the speaker here. He immediately takes notice of Luanne, and like to the point that like after when they're at a meet and greet afterwards, he just like straight up offers her a job.
How'd you like my lecture? Did you enjoy it? I mean, did you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed having you at my lecture?
I really like the part where you were excited about what you do. That's what I'm trying to find. A career I'm passionate about, like waitressing at a steakhouse. Oh.
You know, you have that special, I don't know, unspoiled quality, and something tells me I think you'd do pretty darn well in pork. How'd you like to interview for a position with Larson Pork Products?
Well, I did work with pork chops in my last job. Well, but to be honest, sometimes I dropped a couple.
Well, see, that's the beauty of pork. It rinses off clean.
And schedules an interview at his house, which is a big red flag.
Yeah. Which Hank like rightly calls out as like a huge red flag. And it's so funny, like the flips that happen in this episode, because at first Peggy's like, oh, it's the pork industry. Like they do things informally. And Hank's like, no, he's after like something very specific, Luanne, and doesn't want to say what it is.
He literally backs out of the room. I think that's a little too over the top cartoony when Hank is refusing, when Luanne guesses that like, are you talking about sex? He's like, no, and literally backs out of the room and then pops back in like, yes. Like that feels like a Family Guy joke to me, honestly.
It is very over the top. Although I will say I love, there's such good, like you were saying this earlier about hiding jokes, but also just with like other things in the animation as well. There's like this little tiny spider that's hanging over the doorway that as he backs out, like it twirls. Like it's just like just like a tiniest little detail that like they add in. And I just love shit like that in King of the Hill in general. Like they love doing stuff like that.
There are some really good drawings of characters. Honestly, like Peggy and Luanne, their reaction at the end of the episode to the horrific thing that they witnessed, the way that they draw them is like really incredible. they only hold it for a second and then they're back to normal after that, and it's awkward. But that reaction that they have initially is like really well done. This isn't important, but I just don't want to split over. I think probably my favorite moment of this scene, again, has nothing to do with anything, but when they're in that lecture, Trip asks for any questions, and Peggy has a question.
Young lady, you had a question?
Well,
Yes. I find that I am too busy succeeding to keep track of all of my ideas. So I keep them in a file.
Well, actually, that's more of a comment than a question.
Well, thank you. I think so too.
And it's like, yeah, that's actually more of a comment than a question. And she's like, why, thank you. I think so too.
It's so good. There's a lot of really good moments in that lecture, even though it's super short. The one thing I called out was, again, this is one of those like super subtle things, but the person who's introducing Trip says, talks about him being the pig king or whatever like that, and she says like he wasn't born with that crown on his head, and then literally the first thing that Trip Larson says is, my great grandfather started Larson pork products with little more than 3 pigs, and it's like,
oh my God.
So yes, he was like, what are you talking? And then you find out later in the episode, like, yeah, this is all just like an inherited business that he's like ramped up, of course. But like, it's that like, it's very subtle. And I don't even know if it had to have been intended to be like something that people caught, because like, it's too on the nose that they're like basically like, oh, he worked very hard to get everything he wanted. Here he is talking about the company that he inherited from his great grandfather.
Everything about him is fake.
Yeah.
Everything about, and it's like, it just speaks to this dude who's literally been fed with a silver spoon, wants to get everything he wants, which, kind of sets up how he operates in this whole episode. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I did not catch that. That's so funny.
Yeah. I had to, I rewound that entire segment because like, there was, again, I was like doing the thing where I was like pausing it and trying to write down stuff. And I was like, I'm just writing the whole script. I need to stop doing that.
Right. Oh my God. It's so good. Yeah. But yeah, so Luanne and Peggy, they go to Trip's house for the interview. Again, red flag, but they seem to be on board with it. Cause that's just what the pork industry is like, I guess. And I like the fact that Peggy goes with her and like expects to be sitting in on the interview, and Trip like kind of casts her off and tells her to just read his autobiography, which immediately kind of like puts him in, makes him bad in her book off the bat. She's kind of annoyed that she doesn't get invited into her niece's interview. And then Trip invites Luanne up into his hot air balloon, and we get a really, I think, important exchange.
Well, you know so much and I know so little. I hope that doesn't make you think I'm stupid.
You are not stupid. You're ignorant.
What? No, you can't tell.
It's a compliment. That just means you haven't had the chance to learn all the wrong things.
Oh. No one's ever told me that before.
Well, maybe that's because no one has ever realized how ignorant you truly are.
You just haven't had a chance to learn all the wrong things.
All the wrong things. Like, so for everything about that exchange is just like fucked up. But like, also the fact that he says you haven't had the chance to learn all the wrong things. Like, instead of like just learn, like he specifically calls out the wrong things. Like, it's so weird.
It's weird. It's a thing that like, because on the surface, if you're not really listening to him, it's like, I guess the logic kind of checks out, right? Like if you are someone who doesn't have knowledge, you haven't learned all the things that you have to unlearn. But it's but for one, ignorant has like a very negative connotation to it. So like trying to redefine that is weird. But then like, that's not what he's saying. Like he's specific, like he's basically saying like, I want to teach you what I view as the right things. Everything else you would learn in the world is the wrong thing. Only I know the right things that I can teach you.
Yeah. Which huge red flag.
It is. All of his like creepiness towards her at the beginning of it, then it goes off the chain after a while. But at the beginning, all of his like creepiness and his sort of controlling behavior, I think is really well done because it feels very realistic and subtle in how it's just it's just very like small manipulative little things that like make Luanne feel good while he's saying something that's also going to like mess up her self-confidence at the same time.
Yeah, it's also stuff that could like easily be passed over. Like I think the all the wrong things message, like what you just called out of like, because I didn't even necessarily put all of that together either of like, oh, he's saying like you haven't learned the stuff I don't want you to learn, like like it's so completely subtle that like I think you're like anyone just viewing it like for the first time could just easily just be like, oh, that's just like a weird word choice they went with. I also do want to call out, it's funny because like Peggy, there's this weird message that you start getting throughout this episode for Peggy's character where it's like, oh, she needs to like let Luanne do her own thing and stop controlling her. And then, but I do kind of, even though she didn't seem to, she wasn't as like put off as Hank was initially with like going to their house. I do think like going up in a hot air balloon with a strange man that you just met for a quote job interview, like maybe it would make sense for Peggy to be there like as a safety net, like kind of thing. And so like I even though it's like I don't know if she was doing it for the right reasons in that moment, I do kind of like think about that and I'm like, yeah, Peggy might have been right, like to kind of be protective in that moment, you know, and kind of be against this, like as instantly as she was. So like I got to give her credit for that, because I know like, you know, she is kind of painted with a negative brush a lot of the times, and especially like early on in this episode too. Yeah.
I'm conflicted because I agree with everything you're saying, and I do like the complexity of this episode of characters sort of changing where they stand based on the information that they learn. It's not like it's not clear cut who's for Trip and who's against Trip or whatever. Like it changes as it goes along, right? I think that's really interesting, and I think it's really realistic. But I think like I feel like my hot take for this episode might be that it might be stronger if instead of, I think that maybe it was a mistake to make Peggy antagonistic to Trip for a section of it. And I think that maybe if the narrative had been more focused on Luanne throughout it, and you would just have everyone thinks Trip is awesome, Luanne gets into it, and then that relationship slowly degrades as Luanne sees more and more about Trip that's bad. Then you don't have this sort of weirdness where like it's about Peggy controlling Luanne's life, and she shouldn't, but also sometimes Peggy's right in this episode. Yeah. Because her instincts about Trip being crazy are fully right, but also we shouldn't agree with her trying to control Luanne's life, and those things kind of conflict. And also, if we're sticking with Luanne throughout it, and it is just from her being manipulated into falling for this guy that everyone else also likes, and then slowly realizing, oh my God, he's a psychopath, and no one else sees that but me. How do I get out of this? That's a more typical thriller, like psychological thriller kind of story or plot that I think if they're trying to do a straight homage to it, it'll feel more like, oh, you're just doing a straight thriller homage. And this episode sort of feels a little bit less weird because of it, because you see more clearly what they're doing. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. I'd also add too, I think it gives Luanne a much more clear, like, character growth opportunity, and like is really, it like strengthens her character a little bit more if it is kind of her figuring this out on her own and then overcoming it on her own, because like you do get a sense of that at the end of the episode. Like Peggy tries to like make you think that, but then it almost feels kind of condescending in a way, like the way it happens. And I know we'll talk about it in a second, but I'm totally on board with that. I think that clears up a lot of the kind of like weirdness of the episode and does make it a lot more straightforward. And I personally just like that, because then you just give Luanne more autonomy.
Right. Yeah. She'd have more agency because she's the one who's even though she's being manipulated, she's still on making the choices and then sort of realizing what's going on, you know? Yeah. No, it would leave an opening for Luanne to have more agency, because she'd be the one making the choices. Even if she's being manipulated, she's still making those choices, you know, rather than, and also like, I think that is something that's this episode, you could still have Piggy. Oh my God.
Piggy Hill.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what? It fits for the episode.
It fits. You could still have Peggy like try to swoop in at the end and try to save her, and then you'd have the whole bit where she's trying to control Luanne's life again, metaphorically, while trying to save her and everything. You can still have all of that without having the section of the episode where Peggy is basically the one solely being antagonized by Trip, you know, because the narrative shifts to her, but then it ends up shifting back to Luanne anyway. So
yeah. I I co-sign all of that. I think that they just like kind of outsmarted themselves a little bit by trying to like do too much in this episode, and that's what just like really leads it down a path that like feels just really just weird just in general. I think too,
because they try to set it up to be like a regular King of the Hill episode with Peggy and Luanne having the type of conflict that they would normally have. And I think that that's a mistake in an episode that is decidedly not normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, too, I think some of the other character choices, which one I assume we're going to get to in a couple of seconds, like don't feel natural. Like the Hank thing when he goes to visit Trip, like it just feels so uncharacteristic for him.
Yeah, let's get to that because Luanne tells Hank.
So how'd it go?
Mr. Trip Larson is the most wonderful man in the whole world.
Well, he gave you a job, huh? What position?
Oh, I'm his girlfriend.
It's like, again, red flag, red flag, red flag. There's like some time skips in this episode. I don't know. It can't be that far because it's all taking place around Halloween. But it seems like there's at least a few days later, Luanne's like wearing braids because Trip likes them, which is another red flag that she's like looking differently just because of how Trip approves of her.
Well, I knew this guy was no good, but braiding your hair? From the back, your head looks like a horse's ass.
Well, Trip likes my hair in braids. He says they make me look smart.
Luanne, honey, it's not that we don't like your hair in braids, which we don't. It's that we don't like Trip. He's old enough to be your father, and he's treating you like a child.
And Peggy's like, Luanne, it's not that we don't like your braids, which we don't. It's that we're worried about Trip.
And Hank literally says the back of her head looks like a horse's ass.
A horse's ass.
Also, like, sorry, fuck you, Hank. Like, what are you? Why are
braids are a perfectly like reasonable hairstyle.
What is your
hang
up with like braids? I mean, I know he has lots of different hang-ups about stuff, but like, good Lord, man.
Yeah, it's weird that he like was the one expressing the worry about this, and then when the worry comes to fruition and what he was worried about is actually happening, he's just like, well, I don't really like this. But anyway, the problem was with your hair, obviously. Like, he doesn't really seem to care that much. Or maybe the Hills have never been particularly proactive people, I guess. So maybe it fits their characters.
I don't know that I would. I don't know. Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. But like they do opt to go to visit Trip to kind of discuss Luanne. So like, it's not like they're doing nothing. It's weird that they're not more outraged about it, I guess, is how I feel. But they do at least go to Trip and want to talk to him about, scope it out, see what's going on. However, Trip like very quickly and very easily wins Hank over with football bloopers, this like horrible, sad, depressing looking pig that he's genetically engineered to be like as fat as possible and it can barely walk. And it's drawn beautifully because it just looks disgusting and sad.
Depressing is like the right word. Like when you see it, it's just kind of like, this feels awful. Like this feels just terrible.
But Hank's like, I could eat it with a spoon. Like, oh God, Hank, I want you to be better than this, buddy, but you're not. But and also the piece de resistance is a propane powered hot air balloon, and Hank is loving it.
Hank, how would you like to ride in a hot air balloon? Hey, I don't have to tell you it's powered by propane.
Well, that's one of the 8 uses of propane I haven't experienced firsthand.
Oh, dear Lord.
Peggy, I feel like Neil Armstrong up here. I can see everybody's gutters, and they look great.
I think this is what you're referring to. It feels a little bit out of character for him, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, well, not even the hot air balloon, but his reaction to like what happens when he's in the hot air balloon. Like it's so bizarre. Like, so he's up in the hot air balloon and, you know, Peggy and Trip are having their conversation, and Trip like immediately turns and like starts pulling on the cord, basically like attempted murder.
Mrs. Hill, I'm a guy who makes his own rules. You play by them, everybody wins. Try to call your own game, not so terrific.
Whoa!
Well, let me tell you something. You might be rich, but all the money in the world cannot buy you the most precious gift of all, my respect.
Yeah, and it's like a threat to Peggy. Like, this is what I could do to your husband right now. That's how bad I am.
Yeah,
you know?
which also, just in like a writing sense, she still doesn't like acquiesce to him. Like, she doesn't give in to him. She still is like combative with him. So then why doesn't Trip just pull the cord and kill Hank right there? Like, is my question.
I guess he's not that psychotic. I guess it's more of him expressing control.
Sure.
And that's the thing that he's, again, they kind of go way off the chain with him towards the end of the episode, but throughout most of it, his whole thing is control over things.
Yeah.
And his sort of obsession with like perfection and things like that, and making things how he wants them to be. And that is his way of being like, this is how much power I exert over your family right now. I could literally kill my husband if I wanted to. I don't think there would have been a scenario where he ever would have done that, because like that would have completely fucked over his plans. Right.
Sure.
But it's just showing Peggy that that's what he is capable of.
Yeah.
I do like Peggy's pushback is, money won't buy you the most precious gift of all. My respect.
I love Peggy so much.
Peggy's great.
She's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this is when like it kind of shifts. This is when it shifts to like full on thriller mode, but it still is like not what I want it to be, because it's not thriller mode with Luanne, it's thriller mode with Peggy, where Peggy knows that there's something amiss and no one believes her, basically, because Trip has won everyone else over. She determines that he's crazy. She's like,
the man willfully endangered your life just to make a point, Hank.
Try to see it from his point of view. He was trying to control the balloon and you kept talking to him.
I was right there. He was pulling and yanking that cord and trying to jerk you out of there with every last fiber of his being and then some.
Aunt Peggy, Trip believes that no one ever solved anything with a run-on sentence.
What? How dare you?
but then like the real like thriller kind of horror movie moment is that there's a headless pig delivered at their doorstep. And everyone's like, well, clearly this is just a gift to you, Peggy, because Trip likes you so much. And this is, his peace offering, because he runs, like he sells pork. So he's, of course, a headless pig is a thrown at your door out of a truck. Clearly that's a gift. That's not a threat, right?
Which I'm sure that pig probably costs like $100 at least, right? Like a whole pig, like that's pretty expensive. So I get that aspect of it. Like that would be pretty dope. But also like, yeah, they're pretty. It's very not. I mean, it's not even wrapped up. Like that thing's probably like super dirty. Like
right.
But also, I was gonna say, so the part that like really stands out to me is like, I just don't understand Hank not being more like frustrated with Trip after him like nearly killing him in the hot air balloon. And like I get that like it's part of the episode, but like that's the piece that I felt like is like kind of a little bit stretching his character, where he's just kind of like, well, Peggy, like he was having trouble like keeping control of the balloon like while you were talking to him, like kind of thing. And it's just like, okay, like I know what you're doing, but like it just feels so over the top a little bit.
Right.
Like
that's why I think that they really were trying to be like, what if these characters are just in a different genre, right? And in your sort of thriller genre where nobody believes the protagonist, everyone's always a little bit like over the top in how much they don't believe the protagonist. The mistake of the episode is that sometimes it's like a realistic King of the Hill episode. Other times they're heightened like they're in a thriller movie. And the fact that it's not consistent makes the moment stand out and be like, this just feels like bad writing. It doesn't feel like you're doing an homage or something, Yeah,
I think that's what kind of like muddies it a little bit for me too, especially because like not all of the characters like fall into that either. Like Peggy's like just completely like herself. It feels like most of the time. Luanne is the same thing. I think that's spot on.
But yeah, so Peggy, of course, determines that Trip is crazy.
That's it. Luanne, I have decided that your boyfriend is crazy. Now, do you want to break up with him, or should I?
Now just stop it. Stop telling me what to do. I am a proud, ignorant woman, and no one is going to change that.
Oh, man.
And Peggy's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Luanne, in true Luanne fashion, just runs out crying. And yeah, so she goes crying to Trip, literally crying on his shoulder. And he's like,
you wiped your eyes on my tie. That's okay. It's an amazing fabric.
It's such, yeah, like this is where, so I think that the moment where his character like really starts ramping up into like villain territory is the pulling of the hot air balloon tether when Hank's up in the hot air balloon. I mean, obviously there's like the red flags even before that, but
sure.
I think like when it crosses into like true villain territory is that, and then this is where you're starting to see like the very like obvious cracks in the facade of this character where you're like, oh, this is getting a little weird.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And again, if this was a more consistently heightened episode, I might be more on board with it. But as it stands, they basically just like steadily pile every like psychopath trope onto him. It's like, oh, he has mood swings. Like, oh, he's obsessed with flaws and imperfections. He's like kind of OCD. Oh, and he has like an Oedipal complex. Oh, and he's hearing voices. It's like, oh, so he's just like every bad problematic mental illness trope you could come up with wrapped into one character.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not great. But I mean,
and like if it was very clearly like, oh, this is we're basically doing a satire or parody or whatever, again, I could be more on board with it because they're sort of purposely heightening it, but it's like that's not clear that that's what they're doing.
And is this also the moment where Luanne asks, because he says you can stay here, I think at that moment Luanne asks for her clothes and he says, I've had them all shredded and turned into mulch.
Oh, I don't see any of my clothes.
Well, that's because I had them shredded. Plant mulch. Gardening tip. Synthetics make wonderful ground cover.
But, no, see, I need stuff to wear to dinner.
Not a problem.
Oh! But they're all the same.
Nothing is exactly the same. Everything has a small flaw or imperfection. Drives me mad.
He without asking her, he's like, well, I've taken the liberty of bringing all of your belongings over to me and moving you in with me. And she's like, oh, okay. And then destroyed all of her clothes and replaced them with like a closet full of the exact same old-fashioned dress, just like the same copy of it.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, that's not all identical. Everything has a small flaw, which drives me mad.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, they're like lederhosen, right? Like, or kind of like a weird lederhosen.
I think so. I guess that's what you'd call it. I don't know the name of that dress, but I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if, now that I think about it, lederhosen might be what men typically wear. Actually, no, I don't know. But I know it's not the traditional colors of the lederhosen, but like there's like a very like German kind of like piece to their kind of pork products, family line. And you see that later on, or maybe it's Austrian. I'm not 100% certain, but actually, you know what? I think it is Austrian because he mentions the monocle that he has is from Austria. In the hot air balloon. So that must be what it is. So anyway, gotcha. None of that's that important, but
oh, that's interesting though. I had no idea. So yeah, again, red flag on top of red flag. And I think this episode plays it well in Luanne, like being unsettled when the stuff is happening, but clearly like kind of in denial about it. Like you don't want to believe that you're in as deep as you are, but it's just like, oh, this is weird, but I guess it's fine that you destroyed my clothes. Okay. I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And later that night, she like hears strange noises down the hall, and kind of sneaks out and opens a door and is attacked by a giant pig that's really gross and freaky.
Back off, girl. Don't be messing with Papa's lady now, you hear? Are you all right, dearest?
Why is there a pig in the house?
Oh, don't tell me you're jealous.
I might have grown up poor, but I never knew anyone who kept a pig in the house.
Well, that's because they weren't equipped for it. The floor in there is Brazilian rosewood, super hard, super high quality stuff. And I had it finished with 4 coats of polyurethane. Not that it needs it. The J5's hose are soft as bedroom slippers. Schnauzen! Go back to bed, honey. I'll have Blanca bring you up a warm glass of milk, okay? Okay. Finish it all.
The music's freaky, everything's freaky and dark.
But it has soft feet though.
It does have soft feet like slippers, I think he says.
Like what does that even, that seems that for some reason like the over fattening of the pig and like softening of it, like the feet soft as slippers is the thing that like feels the cruelest of most. Because it's like that has to be like just a painful existence for that animal.
Yeah, it's excruciating.
Like pigs need hard hooves. Like
yeah, no wonder that fucking pig is like attacking everyone it sees.
Yeah.
Like it's been like abused its whole life.
Also, he does. This was just something that I caught. He yells "Schweigen" to the pig, which is "be silent" or like "shut up." Essentially, like just not like it's not like a special thing. It's just like he just tells the pig like "shut up."
The delivery is very good.
Very good.
It's like because he's like just in the middle of talking to Luanne and then just turns to the pig and yells at it in that. And I think that's even like the voice clip that they use after the end credits. Yeah, I mean, it's a good delivery. It's just really freaky. Yeah, so I mean, he just keeps the pig and it's locked in his secret room. And he's like, no, it's fine, Luanne. I'm going to give you a nice glass of milk. Finish it all.
God.
Which is disturbing enough. It's just sort of like, that's a creepy thing to do. Extra disturbing when it's like, oh, he's telling her that because he fucking roofied her.
Yeah.
Because she wakes up 14 hours later with her hair having been dyed red in her sleep.
Not even like it's still wet with dye, which couple of things. If it was 14 hours, he waited a really long ass time to like start the hair dyeing process.
Oh no. What did he do? Oh no.
No. I'm just thinking like he just didn't plan properly. Like
yeah, that's true, I guess so.
If he had just like as soon as she passed out, like he like it would be dry after that, I would think. Maybe I don't know enough about the dyeing of hair process, but
no, 14 hours is a very long time.
Very long time. But yeah, it's funny the drink it all. When I first watched the episode, I think just like super naive about it, and I was just like,
me too.
I was like, oh, he is just like that's his like kind of perfectionism and like meticulousness. Mm-hmm. He's just like, oh, don't leave anything behind. Like that's just like another like quirky thing. I didn't connect that he was actually like drugging her, which is like,
yeah, because the 14 hours thing is subtly thrown out. It's just like she wakes up.
Oh, good, you're up.
My head is bleeding.
Your head hasn't been harmed. It's been improved. I took the liberty of dyeing it while you were asleep these last 14 hours.
But, well, why? I don't want red hair.
You don't like it? Okay. Well, we can always shave it off and wait for it to regrow.
No!
Good.
And it's like, wait, 14 hours and she slept through all of that? Like I mean, it's dark as it is. I mean, it's brilliantly handled in how subtle it is. Like, I don't know if she even realizes that she was roofied, but the fact that he fucking roofied her is like really heavy shit.
Yeah. And also too, like, I mean, doing something to someone's hair is like, I mean, I don't know the law, but like, I think if you cut someone's hair like while they're sleeping, that's assault.
That's assault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
So like, I think that also constitutes like assault. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's very, this is when it like starts getting into like very just like problematic, troubling territory.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's straight up like psychological abuse at this point. Cause when she's like, what the fuck? He's like, well, if you don't like it, we could just cut it all off and let it regrow. And she's like, no, okay, then I guess I'll keep it. Like,
also knowing again, the trauma that happened to her previously, where she lost all of her hair in an explosion, where she lost her last boyfriend, like saying like, oh, we can, I don't know that he necessarily knows that, but like, that's like a layer of like fucked up that like is just really super fucked up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, good God, this poor girl.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't just like, I mean, nobody deserves this, but like, she doesn't. This is too much, man. I don't like you doing this to poor Luanne.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, it's so gross. It's so gross.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, so, and I mean, it's so, and it's the fact that it's not cartoony at all, like I think makes it worse. Cause it's like, this is a real thing that could really happen to someone. And that's horrifying.
Yeah. And the visceralness of it being red and like it's still being wet and like it looking like blood, like it very much is like that. I think that adds just an element to it as well of just being like, I mean, it's violence, right? Like it's straight up violence that he's like committing against her. And I think that like sends the message home too of just the redness of it.
You know what I missed too? I forgot to mention like the scene when Luanne finds out she's moving in with Trip, like they just cut to a shot of pigs going into the slaughterhouse before it cuts to commercial.
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't even notice that. Well, like I didn't put that together. Like, again, just like a super subtle nod of like, there's some like really bad shit that's about to happen. Yeah. No, that's a great call out. Yeah, that is like visual storytelling, like done really well in this episode.
And that is like the moment that the episode turns. Like it was already kind of weird and creepy, but it gets just fucking dark after that point.
Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned that, because I didn't even think of that like super initially.
Yeah, like send a nerd to the slaughterhouse, which feels like mean-spirited to Luanne on the show's behalf, but I guess that's kind of what's happening. Later that night, Luanne steals one of the keys to Trip's private study, which again, I like the fact that she is she has enough ingenuity to recognize that something's going on and want to investigate and get more information, and so she figures out how to get the keys from Blanca, the maid, and investigate like where she hasn't been able to go before. She goes there and discovers a magazine in the display where it's like displaying this advertisement for Larson pork products, and as a girl that bears almost an exact like identical resemblance to her with like the pigtails, braids, and the red hair and the dress. And she's like, why do I look just like her? Trip, who was just like hiding in the room, I guess. My God. Literally like behind a chair, just pops up from behind the chair and is like, oh, okay, I will tell you my origin story now.
So many questions.
And that's where like the weird like Oedipal complex thing kind of comes in, because it's sort of like, well,
this is the Larson pork products girl my grandfather created 50 years ago. Her picture graced the walls of my nursery. Mother never really paid me much attention, but she was always there.
I'm very sorry about your mother, and now I'm going home.
Please don't go. I've spent so many years trying to find you. Look at her. The Larson pork products woman is as comfortable dining with kings as she is slaughtering pigs. I never thought I'd meet someone as perfect as the woman in that picture. And then I saw you.
So he's just basically getting Luanne to be the replacement for this pork products girl who was filling the void that his mother left by not being around. So it's like a weird Oedipal thing.
Yeah.
Where I know I keep saying that, but like that's what it is, right? That's what they're playing on, like a weird thing that like he needed a mother figure, so he found his mother figure in this girl from an ad that he is now manipulating, that he's kind of treating like a little girl in a weird, it's really bizarre. There's like father-daughter dynamics and father-mother dynamics at the same time. It's really strange.
And then it gets weirder after that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so like, I love that you call out that he's just like waiting in the room, because like, does he sleep in there? Like, what is his?
Oh God, maybe.
Is that what I'm supposed to?
We never see his bedroom.
We don't see his bedroom.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if he just stays in there. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, because like, why else would he like have gotten in there other than just like, you know, necessary for storytelling?
Sure.
But like, that's my assumption, is that's just like a room that he stays in all the time, like, and just admires that magazine. Like,
God.
Yeah, it's so weird.
So.
And then yeah, that the whole Oedipal thing, like, they just throw everything onto this character like that they can.
Yeah. And again, if the whole episode was that over the top, I could accept that. It's just like, oh, you're parodying every single trope that you could have, but it's not over the top until here. So I don't know. I want to believe what they're doing, but it doesn't work for me. It just feels creepy and bad and wrong.
Maybe that means it did work.
I guess so. I guess. I mean, it's definitely unsettling.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of with you. I don't think it works in the way that like would have made it a really great psychological thriller, as much as it just feels like just icky. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Luanne just has to deal with this, I guess. And we see that Peggy and Hank are invited to Trip's Halloween party. So they go. Hank, this doesn't matter, And Hank basically disappears after the scene anyway, but he shows up in like, he's dressed as like a greaser, which is just like, you know, his white t-shirt and jeans again with his hair slightly done differently. And he's like, and you know, he finds out that like Luanne is just dressed as the Larson Pork Products girl. He's like, I could have dressed as the Strickland Propane guy instead of renting this getup.
Yeah. Well, I will say he did have a pack of cigarettes in his sleeve. So maybe he rented the cigarettes.
I guess so. But you know, yeah, all that's mostly there to get Peggy there on the scene, because Hank again just disappears after this. I don't know where he is for the last like a act of the show.
I know where he is, because his whole hang up is that he can't enjoy a party until he knows where the bathroom is.
So he's just looking for the bathroom or in the bathroom,
and he never finds that out. So I'm guessing he's just going to look for the bathroom.
Wow. All right. But yeah, so Peggy is there now. Luanne is like told to go back to the private room away from the party. And so basically she goes there, finds Trip dressed like a pig with like a cape on.
He's like a pig king.
He's like a pig king.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous costume. I do love the design of the costume. It's so strange. He's in the pig costume and he like shows her a ring as if he's going to propose to her. And he's like, she's like, I guess you're going to propose to me. And she's like, will you marry this guy? And it's a guy dressed like the man in the Larson ad, like the dude, I guess he is actually in like Lederhosen or whatever. So he's dressed like that. And she's like, who the hell is this guy?
That's the man in the ad.
Life is a series of compromises.
Trip, I'm kind of confused. What is happening here?
Don't you see? We can have it all. We can be the family in the picture. You, him, and me.
What?
And Trip's like, yeah, we're going to be the family. You, the pork products girl, the guy in the picture, and me, the pig. And he just starts getting on his hands and knees and oinking at her, making all the pig noises. And she's like, this is too much, man, and runs away screaming.
I will say, so Javier, the person that he wants her to marry, has a great line in that moment where he says, life is a series of compromises. Like, that's what he says. Like, no explanation. Where the hell did this guy come from? How long has he been there?
Right?
What the fuck? That's not even the weirdest part, obviously. Like, the weirdest part is, you know, him turning into a pig, which, like, hey man, if that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but like,
that's a lifestyle you can lead, but everyone has to consent to that.
Yes, like you can't just force someone into that, like, which is what he's doing. But like, I think it just makes it all the more strange for Luanne, because she's like, this is nothing. None of this is what I signed up for. Like, none of this is.
All of her reactions to the scene are like A+, because she is trying to take all of this in stride, and she's clearly freaked out. I just love the line. She's like, wait a minute, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Who do you want me to marry?
Yeah. Which is just like, you know what, Luanne? You're not the only one who's confused.
So again, she runs away screaming while Michael Keaton is making a bunch of glorious pig noises. He chases after her. She runs through the party. Peggy doesn't notice Luanne like running and screaming through the party, I guess. She does notice Trip running in after her. So she's like, well, something's going on. So she chases Trip. So basically both Trip and Peggy are chasing Luanne. Luanne goes into the slaughterhouse, which was set up by the shot of the pigs going into the slaughterhouse. She goes into the slaughterhouse to hide. Trip gets in there before Peggy does, and Luanne's trying to escape from him, and she gets stuck on the conveyor belt that's like heading into the machinery. He's like, fine, I'll join you.
This is perfect. Now we can become Larson Pork Products together.
So now his fantasy has become to like literally die with her, I guess. Again, the logic isn't there. I guess he's crazy, so it doesn't have to make sense. Peggy comes in, and we get the metaphor for her relationship with Luanne, where she's like,
I'm here, Luanne. I'll take care of everything.
tries to control the conveyor, but only makes things worse by turning on all of the horrible machinery.
Literally pulling the levers and pulling all the wrong levers. Like the first thing she turns on is like a salting machine, like a machine that salts them. I do want to say there's a great like animation bit, and this has to be an homage to some like thriller or something. I just don't know what it was. But when they're running into the slaughterhouse, there's like this spotlight, and their shadow, they have like this moment where their shadow kind of comes in and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And you have that with like Trip like comes in. And then when Trip comes in, it's very ominous because it's like, it's this, it's funny. The first thing I thought of was like, is it supposed to be like the bat signal because he was Batman and then he has like the pig outfit on and you can kind of see the ears and stuff in the like the silhouette. But it is this really cool like animation bit, and I that has to be like a reference to something. I just don't know what it was.
Maybe.
But it was really cool that they did that. But yeah, the conveyor belt scene, like classic scene in any kind of like animation. Like if you want to have like slow danger, like you do a conveyor belt.
Yeah. And I think it is a really brilliant way to like bring in the theme of Peggy and Luanne's relationship and how it works, right? She's literally pulling the levers, like you said, on Luanne's life, only to be making it worse by trying to make those decisions for her, you know? I think that is really smartly done. Luanne eventually breaks free, and Trip just like embraces his impending death at this point. He's like laughing maniacally.
Mama, Papa, I'm coming home.
Very well acted.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense, but Michael Keaton kills it. But then he gets shocked by the like electric stunner thing that would like normally stun the animals before they're slaughtered. So he gets shocked. And like the cruel twist of the episode is that shock apparently lets him regain his sanity instantly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can suddenly think clearly. The voices have left my head. What am I doing in a pig costume? Uh-oh.
Only to see that he's about to be impaled. And he is impaled.
Yeah.
And Luanne and Peggy witness him getting impaled.
I do just want to call out the shock thing because I think that there's a very like problematic association there.
Sure.
Of like, I think that I don't know if this was like their intention, but I think that it's supposed to be like a call out to like electric shock therapy.
That's what I was thinking.
And it feels very kind of like that's like I shouldn't say the one moment in the episode. That's like, there's a lot of stuff in the episode where it pushes the edge. And like even a lot of times steps over. This is like firmly like over the edge for me, where I'm like, this is kind of gross. Like, yeah, like it feels, especially like when he says like the voices are gone. Like it's just kind of like, no, like this is a little too.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's a thing that you would see on Family Guy and accept it. It would be problematic regardless, but you would accept it on Family Guy. This is it's so over the top and so cartoony for that to happen.
Yeah.
That it is literally unbelievable. And it's only done for the cruelty of him, quote unquote, regaining his sanity only to die anyway.
Well, and also, I mean, there's so many like just troubling aspects of this episode, like in its portrayals of like mental health, to have it just be this thing where it's like, oh, this, you know, I don't even want to speak on like what, you know, like electric shock therapy or anything like that, because I'm definitely not an expert, but it's like, it's just this quick flip of a switch kind of thing. And like, that's not ever how that kind of stuff happens. And also too, it's just like, I just don't, the episode functions fine without that. Like,
like he could have just been a horrible, manipulative, abusive man. You would probably still have an argument that he's a psychopath for all the stuff that he's doing, but you could have still had an episode about a manipulative, controlling, abusive psychopath without piling on all of the mental illness tropes on top of it. That just makes it ridiculous anyway, even even separate from all of the problematic shit that's attached to
Yep.
it, you know? And then you would have just felt good with it. Like, it would have never felt good for him to die because it was so dark, but you'd at least like, it would feel less icky. It would just be like, well, you know what? At least a horrible person, I guess, got the just desserts at the end.
Right.
Even if it's dark for King of the Hill.
100%.
It's just so bizarrely cruel at the end of it in a way that is so unlike how King of the Hill's normal sensibility is.
Right. And then the other, like, it literally ends, like, one of the last lines is,
At least Trip seemed happy. And now he's in a better place.
Honey, Trip had a mental breakdown and is now a sausage. That's not a better place. But you handled the situation very well.
I did, didn't I?
You saved yourself by thinking for yourself.
I did, didn't I?
You are your own woman.
I am. So really, it's a happy ending.
Happy enough.
honey, Trip had a mental breakdown and is now sausage, which, like,
yeah, it's a funny line in a vacuum.
Yeah, like, but it's also just kind of like a mental breakdown is a like actual thing that people go through, like, you know, in terms of like mental health stuff. Until I don't know, it's just like the juxtaposition of it is what feels fucked up about it. Is like he had a mental breakdown and now he's sausage. Like,
yeah,
it's
like the villainy isn't attributed to the awful things he did. The villainy is attributed to the fact that he had a mental illness.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And he also, well, I don't even want to like discuss like what he had or what happened to him or anything like that, but like he's been planning all of this like stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he's been very like active in planning a lot of this stuff. That's not to say that like he didn't have stuff going on, but like I don't know. It's just the ending of the episode, honestly, I think is what feels the most heinous. Right. The ending of the episode, and then all of the abuse that like that Luanne kind of goes through. So I guess the entire episode.
Right. Well, it's because, you know, you feel conflicted about it because you feel bad for Luanne and you kind of do want something bad to happen to this guy for being horrific to Luanne, and for Luanne to come out on top as a stronger person outside of it, you know, and know that she's on the road to recovering from these traumas that the student has been piling onto him. And like, I know that there's only so much of that King of the Hill could tackle, and they don't want to tackle that, right? It's not a show that's like trying that hard to be PC either, but it's also not a show that's normally so cruel to its characters. And so like, it doesn't feel like a victory for Luanne, really. It doesn't feel like this was about someone bad getting justice and Luanne like learning something from it. It's just about something cruel happening to a character, and then the characters who witness it just being like, oh, well, we learned something today, so it was really a happy ending. Well, happy enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't like...
Yeah. Like, this episode, I think, probably propels itself to being like a great episode if it becomes about Luanne, if it's more about Luanne, like, you know, standing up for herself is the wrong word, but like coming out on top in a much clearer and less murky and less fucked up way than what we get. And instead we get this weird thing where like nobody feels good at the end of it, and it's all just kind of for nothing. It's like, what was the point of this episode? Like, not that episodes have to have a point, but
the fact that they laugh it off as a joke, which is meant to be the joke, it's meant to be like, wow, they witnessed something really dark and now they're laughing about it. But again, that's not a King of the Hill is never that cruel. It's a bizarre sort of sensibility for the show to have that it never has. And everything else has been sort of serious. They've been using all of these very serious things as the backdrop for this story. You can't, you've painted yourself into a corner. You can't have a happy-go-lucky end on a joke kind of ending when you've done a lot of all this horrible shit leading up to it. You know?
And I think the other thing that makes this episode just kind of stand out too is that on its face, it's not a bad episode.
No.
Like we already talked about, like a lot of the like really great one-liners, spectacular performance by Michael Keaton. All of the characters have like really great shining moments in it. So it's like, it really is this kind of wholly conflicting nature in this episode where it's like, I really like there's so many good moments in this episode and so many things that I like really dug about it, but then it's just like the backdrop of it is just this like really super fucked up stuff.
Yeah, well, it's like you have a really clear through line of Luanne feels like Peggy is too controlling and needs to grow out of that, but then ends up in a worse situation with a controlling boyfriend, right?
Right.
And then has to sort of it's sort of like going from one controlling person to another controlling person. So it makes sense as being a story of Luanne just being like, fuck both of y'all. I need to figure out how to do my own thing without people controlling me. It makes sense. The end of this episode, how it plays out, doesn't play into that. It doesn't really make sense.
It makes it.
Luanne doesn't do anything to get out from under these controlling people. Ultimately, she just like escapes out of his grips literally, and then the guy dies horrifically, and they're like, "Well, I guess I'm stronger from this. I don't really know how, but let's go home."
Like, I guess you could argue that because there's a moment where she like kicks him and says like, "I don't want to be a pork product."
Sure,
I guess you could argue that
that's supposed to be the moment.
That's that moment. And then Peggy kind of like validates her and is like, I think you handled this very well. Like, but also like that doesn't really play into the overall message if you need Peggy there to validate her. Right?
Yeah,
like,
right. I think this episode fundamentally doesn't work with its action conveyor belt ending. I think you just need Luanne. Like she gets stuck in a harder situation with this guy and is on the, like she is pushed to the edge with this guy's abuse and manipulation and finds a way to stand up to him in a way that works for her and walk away on her own without anyone else like pulling the strings no matter what.
I just thought of something, and it's they set up the hot air balloon twice in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And then the episode ends with the conveyor belt scene. Like, why isn't the ending of the episode like a hot air balloon? Or conversely, why not set up the like a tour of like the assembly line as like where they take Hank to, or where like the interview kind of happens?
Oh, yeah.
Because it kind of almost feels like a
sloppy.
Like, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly, but it feels like a Chekhov's gun that like doesn't fire. Right?
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, right. Yeah. This whole the whole like kind of final climax isn't really set up other than the fact that there just is a slaughterhouse because it's a pork factory.
It doesn't feel like it's earned at all. And part of me wonders too, like, I know that, so the episode title is Pigmalion, obviously. And then there's the, is it a book? Pygmalion
there's a few things. There's the Greek mythology Pygmalion, there's Pygmalion the play, and then there's like My Fair Lady. That's the musical adaptation of Pygmalion.
Right. And I know nothing about any of this. So like, I'm like, maybe there is
something. This is something that I looked up. And I think TV Tropes is where I found someone had a just really good, concise sort of way to sort of compare it. I think it's where I found it. But yeah, I mean, the Pygmalion myth, Pygmalion's a dude who carves a statue of a woman out of ivory, epitomizing what he feels like is perfection, the ideal of beauty, fell in love with the statue. Trip is trying to forego like any other relationship to create his perfect version of beauty in Luanne. So it's actually a very clever title for this, I think.
Gotcha. So that all makes sense, but I was like, maybe there's like some beats that they were matching, like with like the play or with something else, but it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, because I thought there's a conveyor belt.
I don't think that there is in the Greek in the Greek mythology. I think that this is the really bizarre example of a time when trying to do a gimmick episode actually doesn't work, because it feels like they were grafting this genre homage onto a story that honestly didn't really need it. Like, I don't know the history of how this episode was written. I wonder if there was an impetus for a story where Luanne gets involved with like a wealthy magnate and then finds out that he's like controlling and has to get out from under him. And they're like, well, why don't we make that like a psychological thriller thing? And like all of the aspects of it that normally I would love in an episode, that you're doing the genre homage. And I would love that they're sort of experimenting in a way that the show often doesn't, but it kind of just ruins what otherwise could be a really strong, honestly, really empowering story that I do think King of the Hill could handle if it was done appropriately.
Yeah. And like, Yeah, you either need to like fix, you either need to like lean fully into the thriller gimmick, which I don't think they do, because like I said, the first act, like we said, the first act is not there, or just like take it away and just do a normal episode.
Yeah.
I think that it was, part of me wonders, and this is one of the reasons why I would love to just get some like writer feedback. Part of me really wonders is if that was like a rewrite thing. Like if like it feels like there could have just been some like fundamental rewrites that they had to do. Maybe they got like Michael Keaton like later on, and so that's when they added this like thriller element. Like I don't know.
What if we made him crazy? Because Michael Keaton can play crazy.
Like I'm just so curious about that, because like you're right. Like when you look at like the first half of the episode, you don't expect where the episode goes at all, and that's. Right. That happens with King of the Hill episodes, but like I feel like even then, like when you get there, you're like, okay, it all makes sense how we got here.
Yeah.
As opposed to this episode where it's like, what just happened? Like what?
Yeah, it's total genre shift. Yeah. I don't know. I find this episode fascinating. I guess I appreciate the attempt, but I fundamentally don't feel like it works. I can't say that I like the episode either. And I feel like I've watched it one too many times to this podcast at this point. I don't know if I want to watch it ever again. It's just not a fun watch. It's hysterically funny at certain points, but there's just no way to finish it without it leaving a bad taste in your mouth by the end of it, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% the same way. Like, and it's like all of those like one-liners are like just so wasted. Like there's so many of them, and so many just good, just like good potential character moments. Like all of it just wasted on just like this.
Yeah, and Luanne and Peggy both, like Kathy and Jimmy, Brittany Murphy. I mean, everybody on this cast is amazing, but like those two are so incredible. They kill it every time, but like in spite of the material in this one, they both kill it as usual. Brittany Murphy, I think even more. Like she's always, I think people have like have realized how good she was like after she died now, you know, in retrospect. But even still, I feel like she's still kind of unsung in how fucking good she is at playing this character. And she's incredibly good in this episode, even in spite of the truly bizarre material that she's given.
No, totally agree with that. The other thing, the other thing that I was just going to mention is like, this is a bizarre one too, because Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer are like barely in this episode at all. Yeah. Like I think they have like literally maybe one or two lines collectively. And I think that's another thing that makes it feel really unsettled too, because it removes a lot of those like the traditionally like wacky elements that kind of that really tug on the groundedness of the series. Those characters really have a great way of doing that. Removing that, I think, and even Bobby too, like is barely in it too. I think that's what makes it just like this through line of just unease throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, there's no subplots. It's completely relentless. Yep. Once the dark stuff kicks in, there's nothing else to detract from that. Which is, you know, not super fun when you're watching a sitcom.
It's exactly what you expect when you sit down to watch, an animated sitcom.
At 7:30 on a network channel. Like, are you kidding me?
But luckily, you have Megalodale to follow it up with, which I will say is I do like that episode a lot.
It's a fun,
but it's
episode.
Also just
it's a bizarre
weird
episode, but it's fun. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know. Any other closing thoughts about this episode?
No, the only other thing I did want to say was there was one line that Tripp had to Luanne early on where she says like, I work with pork chops a lot. I dropped a couple of them. And he says, that's the beauty of pork. It rinses right off. And I'm just like, it's such a gross, but also really funny line.
Jesus Christ.
That was it. That's all I have.
Oh, good. I'm ready to be done and close the book on this episode forever. First time I've ever, so far, first on this podcast of doing an episode that I really, truly just don't like, I think.
Yep.
That won't happen very often, but this one, no matter what, definitely fascinating at the end of the day. No, that's at least something. It's interesting.
If you've never watched King of the Hill and you're doing like a full watch through, like definitely watch it just to see how out there it is. But if you've seen the show before, like you can skip the episode. Like you don't need to watch it.
Yeah. Much every other episode is better.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy, thanks for putting up with this with me.
Absolutely.
If people want to find you online, everything you're working on, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me personally on Twitter. I am at awkward comma. And then I also am co-host of a podcast with my partner, Cassie. And we are currently, we're going through every single Star Wars TV show episode in some order. And the name of that podcast is Distant Echoes. You can find us on Twitter as well, Distant Echoes SW. And yeah, wherever you get your podcasts.
Cool. Well, thanks again. You can find me on Twitter at Derek B. Gale, or on my other podcasts, Walloping Web Snappers, a Spider-Man podcast, which does deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, and Falling with Style, an ongoing Pixar movie marathon, which is a monthly podcast that dives into every Pixar film chronologically. You can also follow this podcast at Gimmicks Pod on Twitter and Instagram for some extra goodies, and email me your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmicspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.